Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mindalia TV livestream, where thousands of people around the world gather daily to watch the interviews and talks organized by MindaliaTV.com. In this occasion, we are so glad to have with us Lindsay Marino, and she will bring a very interesting talk about mediumship and how to connect with our loved ones who had passed away. Lindsay is a psychic medium and teacher. She brings messages from those that had passed away, and she brings messages to their loved ones on Earth. She also gives intuitive guidance to clients about their life and business, and and teaches others how to tune into their own intuition and connect with those that have passed away. Before we say hi to our very special guest, let me please remind you that if you would like to help Mindalia help the world, there's a few things that you can do. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mindalia TV. Give us a like on this video or leave a positive comment down below. Please note that with these actions, you are helping Mindalia TV reach even more people around the world who can benefit from the content of our channel. To allow your live interaction, please remember also that there's a chat on the side of your screen where you can ask questions to our guest, who will kindly answer them by the end of her lecture. Without further delay, please welcome Lindsay Marino. Lindsay, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much. I'm so here.
Thank you. We're ready to listen to your lecture, so please go ahead. The screen is yours.
Perfect. So I want to open up with the question, have you ever wondered what happens after we die? That's a question that I always thought of as a child. What happens when we die? And I figured out that we actually don't die. We are still living on Earth, always. So there's actually different realms that we can connect with when we pass away. So one of the things that I realized as a psychic medium is life is still living on beyond our physical body. So if you think back to what Einstein said, he said energy cannot be destroyed, cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be changed from one form to another. And that's exactly what happens to us. So mediumship actually proves this. Mediumship is the communication between someone here on the earthly plane and someone in the spirit realm. And as a medium, looking back on my life and really connecting the dots, I started to realize that there's been proof all around us that life does go on even after we die. So I want to get right into mediumship right now. Some mediums don't know that they've had the ability since they were little. Other mediums do know that they've had the ability to connect to those that have passed since they were very young. And some of the common things that have come up for people that know that they're mediums now, they may look back at their childhood and notice that they were extra sensitive to a lot of things around them. Maybe they were told that they were wise beyond their years, or they were told that they knew things before anything was going to happen. Or maybe they even spotted their great-grandfather that had already passed in their bedroom at night. These are some of the common things that can come up to mediums as children. Sometimes mediums don't find out until later in life that they have this ability to connect to those that have passed. So I believe that our society as a whole creates some sort of fear of breaking the rules when it comes to religion, or fear of being an outcast, or they can shut down this ability to connect to those that have passed. So if you think back to children that have told their parents, Mom, there's a person beside me. They're talking to me. They're connecting with me. And to the child, they're told, oh, don't worry about that. That's just your imaginary friend. There's been many people over the years that I've heard have had imaginary friends. They have names for the friends. They know exactly what they look like, but they've always been suppressing that ability to connect to the other side because it wasn't the norm. Well, now everything is coming to light. People are becoming more sensitive over the years, and they're starting to connect the dots of those imaginary friends actually being the spirit realm, that the spirit realm is still alive and communicating, alive and well and thriving. So one thing that I want to put at ease with anyone listening, if you are one of those children that had this ability to sense and feel things around them, and they found that they suppressed this gift over time, don't worry, because it is just like riding a bike. If you had the ability to tune into the frequency of the spirit realm, it will never go away. Yes, there are times that we can suppress it, but it does not mean that it can't be opened again. So I think that's very important to note. Now, I want to backtrack a little bit and go back to my childhood, because as a child, I didn't know that I could connect to the spirit realm. I had no clue what a medium was. The one thing that I absolutely loved to do was look up information about the saints. I'm Catholic, grew up in Boston in an Italian family. The Blessed Mother was surrounding our family all of the time. I was just drawn to receive stories from angels and just different messages of stories of miracles. And I remember as a little girl, I wanted to be exactly like St. Catherine of Siena. I did a report on her in our CCD class, and she used to pray on each step and pray to the Blessed Mother. And I wanted to be more like her. As time went on, and thinking back later in my life to my childhood, I started to realize that those dreams that I had that were considered flying dreams, they really weren't flying dreams. They were actually outer body experiences. So when I was a little girl, I used to leave my body while I was sleeping and float around. And I remember thinking that it was so bittersweet because I would fly above my house. I would see my grandma and my mom coming out with shopping bags, and I felt free, but they couldn't see me and they couldn't hear me. And as a little girl, I used to be drawn to spiritual things and spiritual stories. I was extra sensitive to the people around me. I was very empathic, and I would pick up on the emotions of the people that were surrounding me. There were times that adults would come to me for advice, and I used to be able to give this advice to them. I remember as years went on in my teen years, I became drained with the idea of giving advice to friends. It was very natural for me. I thought I liked doing it and helping people, but I started to realize how drained I was and how energized they were after it all. So fast forward to my college years. I went to college at the University of Tampa, and I wanted to become a third grade teacher. So I studied to be a third grade teacher. I was very excited about my future. I was dating someone named Nick, and I remember it was the second day of teaching the third grade, and we were supposed to babysit for a family friend, and he didn't show up that day. Everything in my life shifted on that day. And I remember when I picked up the phone to try to call his phone, a state trooper picked up and shared with me that Nick had passed. And after that was this huge awakening that took place. I remember when he died, a part of me died that day too. And another part of me woke up. And what I started to realize was when I wanted so badly to connect with him and to communicate with him, it was just in a flash, I was able to. And my wish for you today and my intention for you today is to know and to really truly believe that love does continue on after our past loved ones pass away, because that is just a physical shell. So what happened to me was a series of events. One of the first events that happened after Nick passed was I saw him at the foot of my bed. When he stood there, I saw him, and he did not have a smile on his face. It was just the same black hat that he would always wear. He stood at the foot of my bed, and I closed my eyes and opened them again, and he was gone. Some other situations that came up were visitations. And the visitations were his soul visiting my soul. And I started to notice the pattern of the things that were coming through and the signs that were coming through to prove that he was still here. So with that and that experience and receiving that information from him, knowing that he was still around and proof that he was still here, I knew that there was life beyond what I could see. In one of the visitations, he said to me, "You're not going to see me for a while, but I'm still going to be around you." Now, as I'm talking to you, it wasn't that sort of communication. It was actually a telepathic communication. So if you're sitting here watching this and thinking back to a dream that you've had in your life, normally you won't have to communicate through the voice. Usually it's through the telepathic connection. Now, with our past loved ones, when they visit us and we have these visitations, it's their soul visiting our soul. So in a visitation, it's a lot different than a dream. In visitations, they're very, very vivid. The communication is very quick and clear. We don't need drawn out long conversations to remember. We may remember a short phrase or a word that comes from the communication with them. And I remember during my visitation trying to beg for more information to come forward, but there was nothing else that was coming forward other than, "I'm still going to be with you. You just won't see me for a while." And when that came in, and when I received that message and that feeling of peace, knowing that he didn't just drop off the face of the earth, it gave me some sort of peace, even though there was so much pain when his passing took place, and pain over the next, a long time, years and years of pain. And the pain is still there from someone's death. It never goes away. It just shifts. I knew that his communication and his guidance would still take place in my life, and it brought me peace. So when receiving these messages, I wanted to help other people know that they can do the same. They could communicate with them. So what I want to bring you to, back to the mediumship. So when a medium is receiving information from someone in spirit that has gone to the spirit world, the medium will know that there is proof beyond what we can see. And the person sitting receiving the reading, named the sitter, will also know without a doubt that their loved ones are still with them. Some of the things that can be picked up during a mediumship reading are memories that the sitter may have shared with their loved one that passed. The medium may pick up their personality traits when they were here on earth, their presence. They may give healing messages. They'll share their hobbies, the things that they really enjoy doing. And it's very interesting what can come through during a mediumship reading. When this mediumship reading takes place and the mediumship is happening, this communication from the spirit realm to the medium, to the sitter, it is like a triangular conversation. The medium gets the information, gives it to the sitter receives it, and also can feel it at the same time. So that's something to note also when thinking about getting a mediumship reading. There's a lot that goes into it. Like I said before, when we pass away, our soul is no longer held in our physical body. So our physical body is a shell. And the moment we pass, our soul has that feeling of feeling free. So if you've ever had an outer body experience yourself, or you can think back to a moment where you maybe went on a roller coaster ride, or maybe you were jumping on a trampoline and you were in midair, that feeling of that freedom times 100, and then add love to that. That's the closest thing I can do to get into words of how it feels when we pass. It does not mean our loved ones don't miss us. It's a different way that they miss us because they are around us every day. We're actually part of their heaven. So they feel that sense of freedom where they can be with you. They can be with your sister or a friend. They can be with all different people simultaneously. So it's very important that you know that also. Some of the common things that you may receive if you are receiving messages from your past loved ones may be that you're nudged to look at the clock and you notice consecutive numbers on the clock. Maybe it's 333. Maybe it's 1111. Maybe it's the birth date of your past loved one. These are all things that you can receive from them because they will use the environment around you to communicate. They will do anything and everything to let you know that they're okay, but also that they're supporting you. So there are some moments where I have clients come to me, or I've experienced it myself, where I will be driving down the road. I'll happen to look over and I see the face of my past loved one, and I have to do a double take. These are ways that they will nudge you to look at someone. They will also change your perception of what you're seeing in front of you too. So that's something to pay attention to. Like I said before, visitations are a huge, huge way of communicating with you to try to get through to you. If you're not experiencing visitations, it doesn't mean that they don't want to communicate with you. They may be trying in different ways. So it's important that you know that. There are other times where you may be sleeping and you wake up and you don't remember that soul-to-soul visit, but a friend of yours may call you on the phone and say, hey, I've had a dream about your mother. I've had a dream about your father. That they say that they're okay. So they may come through other people to connect with you because they want you to know that they are trying every avenue to make sure that you know that they're okay. Children are extra sensitive to those that have passed because children are very close to the veil. They're very close to the spirit realm because they just came from the spirit realm. So it's important to pay attention to babies, to pay attention to young children, and focus on what they're looking at. You may be listening right now and thinking, oh, there was one moment that I remember seeing my baby daughter look up and there was nothing there when she was looking up while she was in her crib. They see energy and they see our loved ones. So it's important to pay attention to that. Just like children, animals are extra sensitive to seeing our past loved ones also. So you may even receive the scent of your past loved one. There's times where I've woken up in the middle of the night or woken up in the morning and smelled cologne or smoke, and there was nothing that was around. And the moment that you do have something different happen like that, like the scent, or you're seeing something at the corner of your eye, what's the first instinct that comes to mind? Is it a loved one that comes to mind? Or does a name pop in? It's important not to second guess that and trust the process. Trust exactly what's coming through and exactly the feeling that you're getting at that very moment, because it's very, very normal for you to go back on what you're receiving and try to look it up on the internet or try to check in with someone else instead of going inward and focus on that first instinct, that first feeling of receiving the messages from your past loved ones. So I'm going to go through some of the senses that you can use to receive the information from your past loved ones. These are just 4 of the main senses. So the first is clairvoyance. Clairvoyance is when you are seeing clearly. So you may see this information literally right in front of you, where you see a sparkle of light or a sparkle of energy that's right there. Maybe it's at the corner of your eye. Maybe it's a past loved one standing at the foot of your bed. And these are ways that you can receive that information. Other times, they may not want to startle you. So you may see it like a daydream in your mind's eye. So this area in your third eye is the area of you being able to see, almost like a daydream, that, hey, my past loved one is giving me this memory. A lot of the times you may mistake your own memory with your past loved one for the communication that they have with you. So a lot of the times we give ourselves this credit of thinking of the memory, but in actuality, it's them communicating with you in that way. So it's important to pay attention to your clairvoyance. Another way of clear seeing would be if you are driving down the road and all of a sudden you're nudged to look up at a sign and it's the name of your past loved one. Or maybe it's in front of you and you see a license plate and it says the word that they always used to use. So it's paying attention to these small details of the things that you are seeing clearly. Next, we're going to go down to clairaudience. Now, clairaudience is clear hearing. You may literally hear the voice of your past loved one. You may be sleeping and you wake up to hear your name called, or you might hear their voice or their laugh in your ear. And other times it will be not necessarily a voice, but more of a thought that pops in that you can actually imagine their voice saying something. You may receive clairaudiently a message in a song. You may wake up in the morning and hear a song playing over and over again. I remember when I received a song when I woke up, and I actually heard it with my ear, and I heard the song by Bob Marley, Everything's Gonna Be Okay. And it was in a moment that I was in deep grief, and I needed to hear that. And I was so confused because when I heard that song, it sounded like it was on a loudspeaker, but it sounded very distant at the same time. So if you are someone that's actually heard clairaudiently, literally heard it in your ear, you may have that same sense where you hear it, it sounds loud but far away. So that's a common symptom of that clairaudience when you're literally hearing it. If you think of the word apple in your mind right now and you say it in your mind, if you say the word apple right now, without saying it out loud, that's exactly how you'll hear it when they communicate with you. So that's important to note. The next is the clear cognizance. So this is the clear knowing. You have no clue how you're getting this information, but it's this inner knowing. It's this knowing that they are with you. You don't know how to describe it. You just know in your heart they are right here with you. That's another way that you can receive their communication. Another thing that can come up is clairsentience. So clairsentience is clear sensing or feeling. If you think about walking into a room and you have the best feeling when you walk into a room and you think, oh, this feels really good. And then there's other moments where you walk into a room and it feels heavy. It feels like it gives you anxiety. It just doesn't feel right. You can actually feel it like that. Well, when your loved ones are with you, there's some moments where you may feel this immense love that comes over you and it washes over you. And it may even make you cry and you think it's a sad thing. It's important to know that there are times where your past loved one comes so close and melds with you where they want you to feel their love. They want to remind you that they are with you. They're continuing on and they have not passed away. Yes, physically they have, but they want you to know that they're alive and well and they're guiding you. So mediums, going back to being a medium and receiving this information, when a medium receives this information, whether they see it in a clairvoyant way or a clairaudient way, the information comes in very, very quickly. So, and sometimes it comes through at the same time. So for example, when I give readings and I hear the name Gary, one of the readings that I did was I got the information that her father, the sitter's father, came through. I heard the name Gary, but I also saw the name Gary in front of my face in my mind's eye. So it happened at the same time. This is very common for it to come up to mediums where things will come up very quickly and they could come up in more than one sense. If you are someone just wanting to connect with your own past loved ones, know that this will happen to you also. I truly believe that as mediums, we are tapping into a whole new frequency. So just like we're tapping into intuition and getting information maybe about our own life and that gut feeling, I believe that if we turn the frequency a little bit more, turn it up a little bit more, we will be able to connect with our past loved ones. And there may be some mediums that disagree with me, but I truly believe that anyone that's living here on earth can tap into that frequency of the spirit realm and can connect in with their own past loved ones. And if they have that same drive and the same want, they could connect in with other people's past loved ones. It's just like if you are learning how to play the piano. There's some people that are born with that ear for music. They've never been taught, but they naturally get on the keyboard and they just have a knack for the piano and the music. There are other people that may have to work a little bit harder and practice a little bit more, but they can, if they have that want and that need to tune into the piano and practice it, put that time in, they can have that same talent. So just like the piano, the same goes for mediumship. If you truly have this want to really get into mediumship and learn more about it, it's important that you do that and you follow that nudge, you follow that feeling. But also know that mediumship cannot be shut off in the way of, if you ever started when you were little receiving messages, it will never be shut down. You can awaken that. And you are in complete control over exactly what you receive when you are tuning into mediumship. And that's something that's important too. I think as time goes on, we're uncovering this ability that's always been within us as humans. And it's becoming more normalized because of the media and because of the TV shows that have to do with mediums. And I think that really helps us mediums that are living here on earth that are aware of this, or even people that are aware of the spirit realm and they want more of it. So it is becoming more normalized, and it's important to follow those nudges and follow that that thirst for the spirituality and learning more about the other side, because they want to communicate with you just as much as you want to communicate with them. So there are ways that you can tune in to your loved ones. And some of the different ways that you can tune in and communicate with them are going to be, first one is to talk to them. It sounds so simple. A lot of the times we do talk to them, but we think that they're not communicating back. And yes, they are. They're just not communicating in the way that you're used to them communicating in. So what I usually share with my clients and my students is to start by talking to them out loud. You can actually have a normal conversation and say, "Hi, how are you doing?" and use their name and really focus your energy on them. And know that the moment you start communicating with them, they are right here listening. They're aware of that. The next thought that comes in your mind after you talk and ask a question is their communication. It's very easy to get into our own fear. It's very easy to get into self-doubt, but it's also very important for you to actually keep a notebook with you at all times when you feel that nudge that I am connecting with them. They are communicating with me, and record it down so you build up the confidence to continue on your conversations with them. So will they hear you, whether you talk out loud or in your mind? Yes, they're going to hear you no matter what. The reason I say to speak out loud is so that you don't get in your own way. So you can start by speaking out loud. The next thought is their communication with you. And then I want you to really think about acknowledging them. That's another one that sounds so simple. If you are going about your day and you're driving down the road, or you're sitting in class, or you're sitting listening to me, and all of a sudden you have this wave of knowing that your loved one is with you. You might not see them, you might not feel them, but you just know that they're with you and they guided you to listen to something that you're supposed to listen to, or to be where you're supposed to be. Trust it, acknowledge them and say, "Hey, I know you're here. I know you're here." And just by doing that, it is going to make you feel a little bit of a relief too. And speaking it out loud or saying it in your mind and acknowledging them is going to make it easier for you to continue to tune into them and still have a relationship with them in a different way. It's important not to second guess them. The information that comes forward, we can't see it sometimes, but we just need to know in our heart that this is them. And I would say the other thing that's very important is to pay attention to their signs. Pay attention to anything and everything that reminds you of them. This doesn't mean to go searching for signs. It means to just be aware of them. So if you are walking, get rid of the cell phone, which I know can be difficult, but take a walk outside. And if you're nudged to look at the ground and all of a sudden you see a perfect heart in a puddle, know that they're nudging you to pay attention to that. If they nudge you to look outside and you look out and you see a big rainbow, knowing that they are there and they are nudging you to pay attention to that. If you've ever thought of a time where you've been sitting at home and you've been having one of those days where you just felt depressed or upset and disappointed, and the phone rang and someone called at the perfect time, know that it could possibly be that person on the other end sensing they were supposed to call you, and quite possibly your past loved one could have nudged them to call you. So it's very, very important to pay attention to these very small but big details. And becoming aware of this is something that's going to awaken you. Now, once you awaken to the spirit realm and you start to realize that they're communicating every day, every moment, and they're with you and they're guiding you, it is going to become your new normal, but also other things are going to come up where you're not going to be able to look at things the same. And one of the things that happened to me was when I started to receive the messages from those that have passed, I started to look at the world very differently. Everything became more vibrant. Everything that I thought was serious before or was a problem before went away. I actually started to look at life differently, and I had a new perception on life. And I stopped waiting for things to happen, and I stopped hiding in my cocoon and thought, this is my time to live fully. This is my time to know that our loved ones are still with us. And this is my time to enjoy Earth while I'm here. So one of the things that I think is the biggest gift for me when connecting with those that have passed is the ability to see the lessons in everything that comes through. When I give readings, different messages come up for the person receiving the reading, but each time they receive a message, I receive a message too, because I heal from the message that they gave their loved one that's still living here on Earth. And my wish for you is, when you go away today, is to know that there's a part of you, by just listening to this talk, that actually is awakened in a brand new way. So there's a new frequency opening up for you that you can actually tap into. And some of the things that you can receive are visual things, and other moments you are going to see more in the way that you are going to feel. A common thing that comes up for mediums or people that are connecting with past loved ones is their physical body starts to change. So they may be extra sensitive when their past loved one comes close, or when their client has a past loved one that they want to connect in with. Maybe their heart starts to race, or they have goosebumps, or they feel a temperature shift. These are all things that may come up when you're connecting with past loved ones. And that's because the vibrational energy is totally different and heightened from the human sense. So the humans actually vibrate at a slower speed, and those that have passed vibrate at a faster speed. So it's almost like we have to meet in the middle when it comes to connecting, when we're connecting with those that have passed. So I would just offer that to you, and just know that if you do find a shift in energy with your physical body and you start thinking about your past loved one, start to think about that more deeply and think, did that happen because I felt the shift in energy and the shift in presence? And I want to leave you with this sentence. Your past loved ones are just a thought away. They're communicating with you every day. We just need to open up and become aware of this communication and know that their love never has died. Their love is always with you, and their love always links you together. Thank you so much. I can't wait to answer all of your questions. Okay. So I think I will be answering some questions here in a moment, and let's see if they come up on the screen. Should be almost there. Okay. So some of the questions that come up for me normally are, how do I know if it's definitely my past loved one? And I would say the very first instinct is the most important thing. So when the moment you feel your loved one come in, and the moment you're thinking, is that them? If you're questioning it and saying, is that them? It is them, okay? It's important to know that. So the moment you think of them, that thought comes in, trust that thought. Another thing that can come up too for questions is, well, what if someone else has a dream or a visitation and I'm not receiving that? And with that question, I would really say to pay attention to other things, because they may be communicating in other ways with you. And you might even feel a tap on the shoulder. You may feel a feeling of goosebumps on the head. Like I said before, a temperature shift may come in. There's times where we do smell the scent of our loved ones, and we look around and we know that nobody else is around, but we might smell the scent of cologne or the scent of cigarettes, or maybe the scent of aftershave. These are all things that can come up for you. Another thing that can come up also is you may even think of a memory that the two of you have shared. And when you think of that memory, you may get very, very sad. A lot of the times that sadness is actually the feeling of their love. So it's important for you to know that too, that their love is actually, you'll feel them meld with you. You'll feel them come closer to you, and you'll feel that love. So I can't wait to see everyone else's questions that they have, to see if there's anything else that comes up, anything that you want to know about connecting with your past loved ones. So we'll see if they can come up on the screen.
Hi, thank you, Lindsay, so much for all this valuable information. I did not mean to appear there for a quick second, but since I did you have any other idea you want to close before we start with the questions from our audience?
I just think the biggest message that I've noticed from past loved ones are they want us to really live our life fully and not stop living. Sometimes we stop living when they pass away and think that we can't celebrate them. But the majority of the time they're saying, go celebrate, go do the things that you love to do. So on their birthdays or on your birthday, they don't want you to be sad, because they're in a space where they can feel happy and they can see you, and they love you and they want to see you in pure joy. So don't think that you're not doing them a favor for being happy. Don't feel bad about being happy.
Thank you, Lindsay, so much for all this valuable information that you had shared with us today. Before we move on to the questions from our audience, I would like to remind that Mindalia is a nonprofit organization, and our main goals are to help spread human knowledge and to promote planetary solidarity by all means. Also, an important way to collaborate with Mindalia is to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mindalia TV, since by doing so, YouTube shares our content with more people around the world. Now it is time to pass on the audience questions to our guest, Lindsay Marino. Again, Lindsay, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, let me read to you the questions that we have from the audience.
Okay.
The first question we had comes from Texas. It says, how to avoid feeling so energy drained after helping others. I'm starting my path as a healer and cannot help to feel exhausted after each session.
I love this question because I actually used to experience this. And I would say to really set up time for some self-care. And that phrase is being thrown out all around the world right now. The big thing is self-care. I also feel as though there's times where we have to shut off too. So we can help people, but then the moment we stop helping them, we close down and then we recharge. And we can do this by using nature. We can do this by taking walks outside, being in the sun. I always joke around and say we are like flowers. We need the sun. We need the environment, the water. We really need to take extra care of our petals. And I think that if you can really write a list of things that actually bring you joy and recharge you and do those things in between working with clients, that's the biggest message that I could suggest for you. And just figure out, are you putting up the boundaries on where you should be doing it? So there's times where you may be asked to do different healings when you're not on the job, and you're doing that along with working with clients. That could be very draining. And I think it's important to know, how many days do you want to do this? And then what are you mixing up in between? What kind of things are you including in your life? And I notice a huge difference with my energy, and also surrounding yourself with the people that respect your energy, but also respecting your own energy too.
Great, thank you. Let's see, the next question we have says, my friend thinks that sometimes a butterfly has passed flying around her house, and she has the feeling that that could be the soul of a grandparent. Could this be possible?
I believe it could be possible for the soul of a grandparent to come through a butterfly. Normally, for me, I feel as though they nudge me to see a butterfly. So they'll put me on that, to tune into that frequency of seeing the beautiful butterfly, and they want me to see it. So, and I feel the same way about birds, and there's different things like feathers and coins. So I truly believe that why not? They could be, for that very moment, their soul be within the butterfly. And then other moments, they might just nudge you to see that beautiful butterfly. So that could definitely be the sign from her grandparents.
Perfect. The next question comes from Hannah from Kansas, and she says, I feel sometimes the presence of someone while I'm by myself at home. Also, my dogs start barking towards the doorway. Could that be a spirit?
That could definitely be one of your past loved ones. And they're not doing it to startle you, but they're just hanging around you. And a lot of the times the dogs and the cats and the different animals will actually notice them before you might as a human. And they just want you to know that they're there. And definitely I find that during some of the readings where I can actually see, oh, you just spotted at the glimpse of, the side view of the doorway that, your brother was standing there. And then you did a double take and he wasn't there. They'll do that. They'll actually be standing in the doorway just to let you know that they're around. And it's more for comfort and just letting you know that they're there.
Awesome. Daniela says, sometimes while I'm at home, I would feel there's a shadow behind me. And when I look back, there would not be anything, but I had the feeling of seeing something. Could these be someone's spirit around me?
Yes, I truly believe that there are times where you actually may see a shadow. And when we think of a shadow, someone listening to this might say, oh, is that scary? But everything that I've connected, with all people that have passed, it's always so much peace and love. So you could see the silhouette of someone that's passed. That is very normal for some people to experience that, especially if she's very strong in clairvoyance and she sees, and she's extra sensitive to sight. That same person may have experiences with seeing energy too. I feel like that could be happening to her too. So just know that is something that can happen. Definitely. Yes.
Awesome. The next questions. Can you find out the reasons why somebody passed away at a young age through mediumship?
Okay, so just through a mediumship reading, I'm guessing she's asking. Yes. So. Yeah, so when I do mediumship readings, and I can't speak for every medium, but when you're an evidential medium, you can pick up how someone passed, where they were when they passed, how old they were. These are all things that can definitely be picked up. So that is something that their past loved ones will communicate with them. So that can definitely come up through a reading too.
Awesome. Can you describe how clairvoyance manifests? Again,
Okay. So
somebody. Yes, clairvoyance. I think somebody didn't would like to just be reminded of the different ways you can perceive.
Perfect. So with clairvoyance, you may see memories in your mind's eye. You may see a word pop up in your mind. It's spelt out. Like when I get names of people that have passed, they might give me their name in the way that I can see it, like a movie. That's the best way to describe it. Sometimes I'm walking and I spot hearts everywhere. That's actually my sign. I see hearts and smiley faces. And you will see that on my page too, after I'll share where that is. But I see these things because I'm nudged to pay attention. I'm very, I guess ever since I was little, I was very observant. And I feel like if you want to strengthen your clairvoyance, start paying attention to the details around you. So when you go outside, get rid of the phone, even though it's tempting to pick it up, but start to notice little details around when you're walking. Another thing that has happened to me was I was walking outside and I had a visitation from my grandfather the night before. I was taking my dog for a walk. I looked down. There was an arrow that someone had drawn with chalk, like a child had drawn, and it said, "I was here." And it was the day after, the morning after I had the visitation from my grandpa. I knew he was there, but when I went on that walk, I thought, oh my gosh. So that's another example of clairvoyance. They'll put it right in front of your face. Even though a child drew it, if they want to get through to you, they will in that way. And you may even see energy too, sparkles of energy. That happens to me.
Wow. Next question says, what do you think of the people who had committed suicide? Can we communicate with them?
That is such a good question. I'm so glad this question came up. Being Catholic, I used to think, oh, there's a heaven and a hell. Now, since I've been doing readings, I know that everyone goes to that heavenly space. I personally have connected with probably hundreds of people that have committed suicide, and they come through the same exact way. So they still communicate and they're okay. They want to say that they're okay. There is things that they do though on the other side where there are things that they can work on the other side, things that they can learn. I know there was one male that I connected in with, and he was helping dogs cross over. He was doing different things with the dogs when they came over. So it's very interesting what happens. But even though they commit suicide, they're not stuck. I used to think that people were stuck and they would never come over. The moment someone passes away, no matter how they pass, they are in that heavenly realm. They don't need to be, and when I say crossover with the dogs, it's not like they have to do something specific. He was there to kind of be there for the dogs, but it's not something that, it's very instant that they go to that heavenly space.
Great. Danielle wants to ask, a couple of months ago, I was waking up every night at 4:44 or 2:22. What could these mean?
Okay, that is a great question. That's a common one that comes up for me. So if you wake up to consecutive numbers, or you wake up around 2 or 3, 4 in the morning, that's actually a very common time for you to be closest to the veil, so closest to the spirit realm, because it's not far away, but a lot of people are sleeping at that time. So you don't have to burst through the noise in our earth. It's very easy to connect. So I would suggest for her to take out a notebook and see what the first thing is that's coming to her. She could have past loved ones around her that want to just say hello or give her information. She could have guides that are coming through. I think that's a really good time where our soul is very connected to the spirit realm. So it's important to take note. The first thought when you wake up, don't go back to sleep. It's going to be very tempting to, but I would say to take out a notebook and start writing, because there may be a message for you.
Great. We have a similar question. Anne basically says she's had the same experience, but that it stopped happening after a while. Could these mean this sort of window had closed?
I believe that there's certain times with energetic shifts that can make us more sensitive to waking up. I've noticed a pattern with other mediums and highly sensitive, empathic people around the full moon. People wake up in the middle of the night. So she could have been waking up during a time where it was extra sensitive. And that could have been a moment to kind of recalibrate and get information and write it down. And if she missed that opportunity of waking up at that time, that's okay, because it will come again. And you don't have to wait till the middle of the night for a message. You can actually receive it all around you. But a lot of the times there's people that are missing these signs and messages because they're so wrapped up in our culture of social media and just being busy. So if you can kind of take time to set aside some time to really be there for you without technology, that would be great.
Great. Steve says, what is the most memorable or craziest story you have from your gift? You have experience from your gift?
That's so interesting, because I was actually just talking to my husband about this before I got on here. And I said, can you think of any readings that I've done that stick out to you? Because I actually forget my readings. A lot of the times people have to bring them back to me. But I've shared this experience before. I was doing an audience event, and the last person to communicate with me that had passed was someone that had passed of a drug overdose. And I remember connecting in with him, and the man at the very back of the room had his arms crossed, and it seemed like he was probably dragged here by his wife that was next to him. I figured out from his past loved one that he actually was dragged there, and his past loved one that was a friend to him kept saying, calling him brother, and mentioning his son's name to prove that it was him coming through, and shared memories that the two of them had together. And his friend kept on telling me to tell him about the number 2, keep on bringing up the number 2. So I said this to the man that was sitting down, and he bursted out into tears and started crying after he heard his son's name. And then I told him the number 2, and he lifted up the pant leg, and on his legs, underneath his pants, were all 2s written up and down his legs. And it was an anniversary or some sort of significance to the number 2. And he came up after and talked to my husband more so than me, because I was busy with other people. And he said, I was a skeptic. Just like she said, my wife dragged me here, and I'm so happy that I came. And you could feel the healing coming from him, just knowing that this was his friend that was like a brother to him. He was okay, and he was still communicating with him. There was more to the story, but that was one example of proof that he was with him.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Victor has an interesting question. He says, if we reincarnate, does it mean we will be in touch with our loved ones until they reincarnate again? Could these mean we won't see them again as they were in this life?
Oh, I have goosebumps with that question. I think about this question a lot. I get asked this question a lot. It was a fear for me. I didn't believe in reincarnation before, and now as a medium, I do. The one thing that I started to realize with experience from readings and the information that I was getting from those that have passed on was that no matter what, if we do reincarnate, we are always going to be there for our loved ones. We will never miss them. So if we go to heaven in 100 years, we will automatically see someone that had passed years before. And the reason this is because if you can imagine an ice cube, it's made of H2O, but it's in solid form. You put it in a cup and you put it in front of a window with sun, it starts to melt. And if you keep it there for long enough, it will evaporate, and it's still H2O. It's just in a different form. It's in tiny little particles. And what happens is those particles might separate and go in different spaces, but they're still part of that same solid ice cube. That's exactly what happens when we pass. Our soul goes into different directions. We can be with more than one person at the same time. We can be in the heavenly realm. We can be here with our loved ones on earth. We can reincarnate, but we are still part of that same soul. So we're there to greet our loved ones. They're always there to greet us. So there's no fear in that, thinking that they won't be there, because they will.
Thank you for that answer, Lindsay.
You're
Another
welcome.
question. My niece passed away years ago, and I used to have dreams about her where I would realize she was passed.
Yeah.
I haven't had any dreams about her anymore. What could these mean?
Okay. So when they first pass away, there's times where they try to communicate through visitations. Sometimes we have fear dreams too, where we're in a dream and then we have a fear we can't find them. So that's very common also. That's more of our own fear. But at the very beginning, they wanted to show us that they're still alive and well. And she may have said, she may have been there, but the moment you saw her, you were confused because she knew she had passed. You knew she passed. So your mind got in the way of that visitation or that dream. And now, since you're not dreaming of her anymore, it doesn't mean that she's not around, but she already got to you that way. So she's going to communicate with you in other ways. So it's important that you still stay in communication with her. If you're wanting or thinking of her, or communicating, pay attention. Sometimes you might walk into a store and you hear the name Shelly, and that's her name. And you just walked in at the perfect time. So it's little things like that that are huge details and huge ways that they're communicating and making our frequencies line up with them. So they will do anything and everything to get it to kind of match up.
Great. Another question. Can we see our loved ones through meditation?
Yes, I've seen my own loved ones through meditation. It feels like you're making up a movie in your head, but you can definitely see them. And I believe meditation is awesome. I do get fidgety during meditation. So for me, just walking out in nature and just knowing they're walking with me is just as powerful as sitting crisscross in a room of silence, So it really depends on what is beneficial for you. But with meditation, you can definitely see them. You also can feel them too. If you take time to feel that quietness. A lot of the times I get like tapping on my arm, like it feels like a pulsing. It's them tapping. So just pay attention to that too.
Interesting.
Yes.
The next question says, can you connect, sorry about that. What do you think or know happens after we die?
Okay. So I truly believe the moment that we pass, we're leaving our physical body before we experience any pain. I believe that. So if someone passed in a car accident or a motorcycle accident, I believe that their soul leaves before impact. And I believe the moment we pass, we're greeted by our by our loved ones that have already passed. And we go into a space where we review our life. We're aware of everything, the ripple effect of how we've affected other people. I believe that we come back to see our funeral, our memorial, and we're around those loved ones. There's times where we're extra close, very close with signs to make sure that they know that we're okay. And I believe that there's moments where we're learning when we've passed away too. So when we're in that heavenly realm, I believe that we're doing some sort of learning. Now, in the spirit realm, if you think about human years of 20 years, in the spirit realm, it's like 2 seconds. It's like a blink of an eye. So it's totally different than the time here. That's why it's important to know that even if you think that it's been some time, they still have that memory. Their soul still remembers things that we may not remember when we're here. A fear that comes up for people is, what if I don't remember their voice? What if I don't remember their laugh or memories of them? They will do a good job of showing you things. Memories come back to me all the time, and I know it's not my own memory. I know it's them nudging me and communicating and saying, remember this, and reminding me of it. But I think they trigger something to remind me of it, even though it's been some time.
Amazing. We have another question that says, can you connect with spirits that are not from people who passed away?
So I'm guessing like dogs and
I guess so. Yes, I believe it's animals.
Yes, I actually have communicated with a parrot. I've communicated with dogs, cats. Yes, because they have a soul just like you and I. And if you really take the time to look into an animal's eye or eyes, you can feel their soul. So just doing that with the living animals that are here, you can feel their soul. And when they pass, they communicate with me too. So it's pretty amazing.
Amazing. Another person wants to know, can you do readings from distance?
That's a great question. Yes, the majority of my readings, probably 94% of them, are done over the phone. If my client's in another country, we will use Skype or Zoom, because distance can't. When I connect with a past loved one, if I'm doing a past loved one reading, I will be connecting with them. They're in the spirit realm. So they're with me, but they're also with my client at the same time. So I don't need to see my client. And if I'm doing an in-person reading, I can connect the same way. So it's the same communication. There's nothing different about it at all. It's amazing. And I think that's a lot of people's questions are, how do you even do that? It's because energy is, it's alive. It's well, it can't be separated by time or distance. So it's easy to connect the same exact way.
Amazing. David asks, have you ever heard or experienced messages from divine masters or angels?
Yes. Oh, it gives me goosebumps thinking about it. Yes, I've received messages from guides, angels. And it's interesting because they're totally different messages from those that have passed. I feel as though I do some automatic writing where I get information that comes through my writing too. And I feel the message is very simple. And the essence of it is not to worry. It's kind of the feeling of, everything's always going to be okay. Everything is connected with love. It's just a high vibrational message. And the thing with that is we can't prove that anything that they say is real. And I'm putting that in quotes, but it's a feeling. It's a feeling without a doubt, that this is coming from an angelic place. And yes, I have connected in that way, and it's beautiful.
Great. How does mediumship changed or shaped your life, Lindsay, personally?
Great question. I feel like mediumship has completely shifted everything. I feel like the people that I surround myself with now, I'm very, I respect my own boundaries, but I also just make sure that I'm surrounding myself with people that are open to this sort of stuff. Of course, I am connected with people that aren't open to it, and I spend time with them, but I surround myself more with people that are enlightened in this way. It makes the conversation more interesting, and it really gives the conversation more depth. And I find myself really loving conversations about spirituality. I feel like I'm more grateful for things. I don't hold back anymore. I don't filter things. I say things exactly how they are. I try to be the best version of myself, but also know that I'm a human, so I'm not perfect. And I feel each reading that I do, I get some sort of healing for my soul, just seeing the healing taking place for someone else. And I believe that I'm just a vessel. It's not me. It's me giving the message from those that have passed. So I feel like it's heightened everything. It's very bittersweet because there's a lot of good that comes from using your gift, but you also get a lot of resistance at the beginning, and then you just kind of move through it. So it's made my life so much more beautiful, and I'm actually realizing the blessings that are around me. Rather than before, I was having blessings around me all of the time, just like every human is, but I wasn't aware of it. And now I'm fully aware of it, and I'm just so grateful for it.
Thank you for that message, Lindsay. We have the last question of our audience. It says, I've had dreams where I lose my teeth, and both times family members had passed away.
Oh,
were those dreams signs?
Okay. It could be their symbol for this, where maybe that's a fear of them losing their teeth, and it's how her mind perceived the information that was coming forward. I think she should create a little notebook to write down things that she does receive. And I think this is a really good question to leave on too, because there's times where we can just focus on the things that are maybe fearful. She really was receiving that information, but then also take note of the positive things that can come up in her dreams too, and track those. So I believe that, yes, that could have been a sign for her, like that's how her symbols are coming through with that message. And she can create her own symbols of what she wants to receive and see if they come up too.
Amazing.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Lindsay, for sharing all that information with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel so grateful to be a part of this.
We appreciate all the information that you've given us today. There has been people all over the world who had joined us for your lecture. To all the people that had watched us on Mindalia TV Live, thank you very much for your important participation. Before we finish, I would like to give Lindsay a few minutes to just say goodbye to all of us and give us some of her information where we can reach you.
Thank you. So where you can find me is lindsaymarino.com. There's all different information about my services and classes on there. And then Lindsay Marino Medium is my Instagram account. And that's actually where you'll find some of the hearts that I saw for signs. And Facebook is where I do Facebook Lives, and that's Lindsay Marino Medium, or you could just type in Lindsay Marino and you'll see my photo there.
Great. Thank you, Lindsay, for all that information again. Thank you to our audience. Remember that if you would like to collaborate with Mindalia TV, just please subscribe to our YouTube channel. This way you can help us reach even more people around the world who can benefit from the content that we share. Again, Lindsay, it was a pleasure to have you today with us. And to everyone who watched us, thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.